Oh, we're in. Here we go. Started almost right at the 11 o'clock time. What's up, Craig? Craig, Greg. Pick one. Just kidding. Greg, what's up, man? Glad you're here. Ernie, good to see you, man. Sarah, how you doing? We're gonna have a fun show, a special show. We have a guest with us today as well, and we're gonna talk about something pretty interesting. And yes, it's real, as we think it's real. Jose, what's up, man? Omar, how you doing? Before we get into that, though, I want to quickly talk about what our first line on the subject side you could see here is the obstacle. The obstacle is the way. And sometimes I was thinking about these different roadblocks that happen in life, different constraints, whether it's in like whatever, some sort of a business thing, some sort of relationship constraint, some sort of coworker, which kind of falls into the relationship category. Um, but oftentimes we find ourselves like stuck or like avoiding something. And you know what it is. It's typically it's a hard conversation that we're avoiding. But on the opposite side of those conversations typically is the path forward. So like in business, when you're looking at something, I'm always looking at like, what's the constraint? What's the bottleneck? We want X or Y to happen. I want to get more members, but how do I get them into the gym? What's the constraint here? And a lot of times people would say, well, it's lead generation. I just need more people to come and try out the gym. It's like, okay, there's the obstacle. Now you know the way forward. And then you just circle around that idea. Well, how do I bring them in? What types of people? Where do I find them? What do I do to do that? And over time, you will start to see that the obstacle has now just become the thing that we're focused on. And in this case, in this example, the leads, right? But there's also other examples. And I've had many conversations with affiliate owners. And so we're going to stay with that as kind of like making sense of the whole entire obstacle is a way. A lot of times when I talk to these affiliate owners, it boils down to some sort of member or some sort of coach, whether it's coach to owner, meaning, hey, I have these great ideas. I want to do this with the programming. The members are all saying they're on board with this too, but for whatever reason, the owner's not on board. Or typically we see it in the reverse of the owner of the gym saying something, hey, the coaches just don't do what they're supposed to. I'm not getting the energy I want out of them, whatever the case may be. But the issue is that you first have to identify, okay, this is the constraint. This is the conversation. This is the thing that needs to happen. And then you have to actually put strategies on how you're going to execute against that. And so as a coach, your job is to really think about, okay, what am I trying to accomplish when I sit this owner of the gym down and I want to implement some new warm-up things? Now, don't just barrel into the conversation. What I mean by the obstacle is the way, and the focus around that is how do you develop strategies to have that conversation go in a positive manner? And you got to sit there. You got to actually like think about that for a minute. Okay, well, if I come in hard to that conversation, I'm like, okay, Matt, well, all the members are saying, everybody's saying, everybody wants. That's not a great way to start that conversation. And in this example, you need to find strategies of how do I first honor this gym owner or the superior that I'm having the conversation with to not put them into a threatening place, to make them defensive right off the bat? And how do I make sure that it's me and this person, the owner in this scenario, looking at the obstacle or the problem, not attached to us as part of our personality, so we have to bear down and get super defensive about it, but as you and I working and looking at this problem in front of us and how do we solve it together? And so if you really think about these different obstacles or constraints that are coming up in life and strategies around how to have those conversations or to lift those, you'll find that each time you feel stuck. And to me, like in business or just in life in general, like stuck feels like there's a lack of options. Like it feels like, fuck, I've tried a bunch of this stuff and like it doesn't seem like anything's working or I'm not making any progress. And then typically that's when you kind of start to feel like, okay, this isn't working out. Maybe it's not for me. You start circling around those negative thoughts as opposed to just looking at it and saying, okay, we have the obstacle. I've identified the problem, which is huge just in and of itself. But once I've identified that problem, now what strategies or what am I going to really put my time in thinking about on how to lift that constraint? And one of the things that I constantly think about is like, if you could really identify a problem and like be able to transmit, okay, here's the issue I'm having, and here is all these reasons why, and this is the context on it, and this is the exact problem that we're dealing with. If you could get yourself to that place where you could really identify and communicate it, then your problem's already halfway solved. And a lot of times we just get into this negative circulatory thoughts of like, well, it is the way it is, or well, this sucks, or the CrossFit space is toxic. But there's no strategy. There's no actual thinking about, okay, how do we solve this? What is the actual problem here? And how do we solve it? So I just want to start with that. There's actually a great book. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. It's written by Ryan Holiday, who up until 2020 was awesome. Then he fell off the freaking bandwagon into oblivion, and I no longer respect him, but I still respect his work and him as an author. So if you want to really dive into identifying the obstacle and the stoic mentality behind it, I suggest you go check out The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Yeah, Standy, I'm on time, and there is a book recommendation. Man, we're 5 minutes into this show, and we got a book recommendation. The Barbell Spin, who shamelessly stole my background. Pending lawsuit, little things happening still. Less talky, show me the money. Okay, that's fine. With no further ado, my new partner in crime, I think, I think we're like official partners or something now, is Mr. Peter White from Coffee Pods and Wads. Peter, welcome to the show.
Wow, in front of a live audience.
Dude, it's just, they're actually right here. It's just ambient noise from my shotgun mic pointing out.
Look at the state of my face. I mean, in general, but just from, I got so burnt on the first day of Tier Wadapalooza, and I've just started like molting.
Dude, which is crazy. Because wasn't it like all like overcast and stuff like that?
Cloudy, cold. Yep.
Oh man, and you just got burnt like a bug. Oh, yep. Here's Standy's note of positivity. If you ever need a boost of self-confidence, just bring up any one of her comments. Oh, good, someone to carry the show.
Is your font set to like spooky, or why is it different?
Yeah, it's just different to being different.
Okay, I like it.
Best tan in all of Ireland. And check
Only
this out.
All about
it. Would you believe that the background that we're sitting in right now, I made, along with all these other ones that cross it out, along with scheduling the show, and then this lovely breakfast, which I got a couple bites in on, all within the 25 minutes when I texted you that link.
Well, there's a few things to talk about there. One, I mean, the spin could take notes on this background. It's like perfect. Two, the eggs and beef looks incredibly dry.
It's donezo now. But I will be eating that immediately after. Eat on the stream, Souza mukbang. No, we need John Young here for that. All right, so I guess we just like, this is kind of funny because it's like happening in meta time, like real time unfolding, and on this like show here as well. But I guess just to give some context on what was happening, and you could stop me at any time, Pedro, like jump in and add more to it if it's necessary. But the long and the short of it is like we've circled around saying, hey, look, I think we could definitely do a lot for the athletes in this space, and I think it could look a little bit different than currently what's taking place. And then we kind of joked about it, and then slowly we're like, wait, yes, we actually can do a lot, and we could add a ton of more differences.
It's probably worth saying that we were both having the same thoughts and ideas separate to each other, and both kind of half thinking, would it be possible? Would it be plausible? Like, would we actually be able to do what we want to do separately? And then both of us kind of had a conversation. I think the first time I realized that you were actually interested in it was at Crash, and we were kind of chatting about JR's event. And then I was like, oh, he actually sounds like he's put a lot of thought into this. Maybe I should talk to him about it. And then I kind of shelved it for another while. But then when we actually both spoke about it, we both have basically the same aim and idea, but we had them separately, which was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the long and the short of it is like, I think that there's a lot of short-term decision making, and I think a lot of the agents want to play big shot more than they want to play servant. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think
In terms of the way they negotiate stuff and things like that.
I think the short term is definitely accurate, because I think like there's only so many, you know, if you make a list of like CrossFit brands or like CrossFit adjacent brands, like you run out of brands pretty quickly. Like it's a very short list, really. And then that's why if you go looking at, you know, the games roster from last year, there's a lot of crossover between all, and now Adidas or Adidas or whatever are doing it. So they're coming in, they're signing some athletes, but then it's like, okay, they can't all be signed to Tier or Adidas or whatever. We need to like branch out a bit and think outside the box. And I think that's something that both of us thought is maybe lacking of the current system, where it's just like, right, can we get them signed to Tier? No. Okay. Can we get them signed to Adidas? No. Okay. Oh shit, I'm out of ideas. All right. What about grips? Can we get them signed to Frog Grips? No. Okay. Velitas or whatever? No. Oh shit. Okay, I'm out of ideas. And it's like that. There's, you know, it could be like, you know, all right, let's get them signed. It doesn't have to be a grips company, a protein company, an apparel company, or a shoe company. It could be like Ari Alone is a great example of someone who's forging her own path, and like she's doing the hair like clip thing or whatever. That's all her, and like that's what needs to be happening more. But we can't. It's not fair to expect the athletes to do that themselves when they already have a job and they're already doing it. I would believe that that's the job of the manager or the agent, to manage that scenario and say, hey, you need to diversify, and you need to think about in 8 to 10 years time, when you're not doing this anymore, what are you going to do? Are you just going to do programming, or do you want to do something different? Do you want to have a stream of income where it just runs itself and ticks over, and you just have to, like, you know, broad picture manage it rather than getting into the weeds every day? And then can you start setting that up now, instead of suddenly panicking if you get an injury, or panicking and you're retired and thinking, oh, Tier don't want me anymore because I can't do double unders. So what am I going to do now? Like, you need to start putting those dominoes in place early.
Yeah. And I've talked with a few of the athletes, not like a lot in detail, but I got curious about it around the semifinal time last year. And I was like, hey, how often do you guys, like, and by you guys, I mean athlete plus manager, how often do you guys discuss your long-term goals and then set some markers out forward to know if we're on the right path or if we veered away from it? And do you have set things in place where, you know, okay, hey, in 2 weeks from now, I got my meeting with Pedro. So like, I have a few things that I want to discuss with him, but I know that I have this meeting on the books with him just to do a quick check-in, and I could kind of, you know, lay out any of these things over here. And what does that path and system flow look like as far as getting a new company involved, or if a company reaches out to the athlete directly, like how do you know that that communication flows well enough to where nothing slips through the cracks? And most of the athletes said all of that would be amazing. I don't have anybody that does that. And we'll keep it vague because we're not here to like call people out or throw it under the bus. But essentially, it's like, I think that one, either the agents are too spread thin, trying to just collect as many of the athletes as they can, and then they can't really deliver value because they're only one person and they don't have a team behind them.
I don't even know necessarily that that's their fault, or that, or like in all cases, or that it's like through greed or something. I think a lot of it is, oh, this person needs help, I better help them. Or like, this person has come to me asking for help, and the easiest way for me to help them is to add them to my list of athletes. But then unfortunately, the byproduct of that is that's the easiest way for them to get lost too. And then they kind of shuffle down to the bottom of the deck, either on purpose or subconsciously, and then get forgotten, or they're, you know, living off breadcrumbs. And I think as well, a lot of times what happens is you have an athlete who's maybe on the bubble, or has just made it, or is just about to make it, and then the agent or manager or whatever takes them on to try and help them a bit, but then they haven't made it. And then the athlete has an expectation of, oh, cool, I've got a manager, like the money's going to start rolling in. And the agent is thinking, I mean, James Sprague won the games, and his first big deal came like 6 months afterwards, you know, when he proved that he could do it again at Wodapalooza. So yeah, I think it's, you know, it's not fair to say that all agents are shit. I think it's just that we want to be really good ones, is probably the more accurate way to say it.
Yeah, and that's good, because I think a lot of times I start focusing around like competitive, like I just enjoy kind of having like an enemy or like a competition to go after. So right away, I just always start doing that. Like, okay, what's the status quo and how could we level that up, right? But I think you're right. I think a lot of the times, like with the agents there, as they start to collect more athletes to try to make a living for themselves, it starts to get triaged. So if I'm here and I'm like, oh shit, I got Matt Souza as one of my athletes, but we know this slump ain't even going to make it to semifinals. Like chances are his stuff gets forgotten, like you said, subconsciously or consciously. And if I have Taylor Self on and he's my all-star, like all of my attention starts to move towards that one individual. And have you thought at all what you would call it?
I started thinking about ideas, but then I was like, is that putting the cart before the horse? Like, am I like getting ahead of myself, coming up with like a really cool name, and then you've no athletes? You're just like sitting doing nothing.
Wow on earth.
Yeah. Hey,
we
might want to work with them. Shut up.
Oh yeah. Now we got to play it cool, right? The one thing that came to mind, which I don't think this is actual usable, but I just thought it was funny, was Drunken Sailor Agency, because of all the news things that you did that ended up being way more factual than not. With the drunken bit, I thought it was funny, but then I thought
it would certainly lull all the brands into a false sense of security, thinking some alcoholic is going to walk, like kick in the door and sit down at the desk.
That's why I was like, how effective do we think that name would be in just turning people off immediately?
Yeah, and like there is an element of risk as well, where you're kind of asking the athletes to trust. You have no proof of concept. Do you know what I mean? You're asking the athletes to be your guinea pig, basically, and to say, like, look, I think we can offer something different that isn't there. And I think we can take an awful lot of the stress off your plate, and you can just focus on what you need to do and don't worry about anything else. And then we'll write the list, draw the boxes, and tick the boxes for you. And you just have to check the list with us every so often, and that's it.
Exactly. And that'll bring us to the next point. So we actually already kind of got two of these. I've messed up on it. So yes, it's real. It's real, right? We're starting like if we were like, hey, go ahead and reach out to Pedro here and we'll get you squared away.
We already have. I mean, Rios and JR are our first two clients.
Nailed it. We already discussed the issue a little bit. Now we're going to kind of dive into like what makes us different. I thought I saw Rios on here. He commented and he was like,
oh yeah, there, I can't click it.
Peter's my agent. Oh, there it is.
Under
Boom.
Ken Walker.
Peter's my agent. The agency is the agent. Patrick, you gotta remember there. It's a teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Sprague Couch sponsored by Sevon Media Chat. True. We did help out with that. Heidi, why would anyone want that associated with their image? What, the drunken sailor thing, or like our faces specifically?
I mean, if you look at the names of the other agencies, they don't really, they're just asinine. They're just like nothing. Like Backland Management is Snorri's one, Lab Management. Like they just don't really, E3 Sports, like they just don't really mean anything. I mean, I'm sure they do to the person who came up with the name, but to us, they just become like a name that's nothing. Like you could call it DS Agency, and we know it's Drunken Sailor.
That's it, DSA. Yeah, and no one else would know. And I would argue that if we didn't say that name out loud, like, and we pulled the audience here, and I was like, "Hey, give us 3 agency names in the space," I don't think anybody could. I don't even know really if I could. I could give you the names of the agents, but I don't know what the name of their company is. Oh, Heidi clarified the Drunken Sailor thing. Yeah,
DSA.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Added a lot there, Heidi. Good job. Souza, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Get with sponsors ahead of time and seal deals and go to athletes with deals. If you could do this before we sign the image. Okay, so let's get into what makes this different, because Ken took a swing there at it. And here's the deal. We think that, and this was what you were saying, Peter, as far as like, we had the same thoughts at separate times. And then when we discussed it, we were like, oh, wait, that's kind of the same deal. And one of the kind of core values that we would have in the agency is that minimizing the athlete's lift on what they actually have to do. So what does that mean? Like if I get sponsored by Frog Grips, they're going to say, hey, here's in your contract, you need to make 2 posts a month about Frog Grips. And we want you to go ahead and put in this call to action or wherever the case may be. Now, most athletes, and if you're an athlete listening to this right now, you'd probably agree that you hate having to then come up with the content, figure out what you want to post, and then remember to have to post it. And so one of the things that we would do, and I guess this is where my part comes in here, is with media launch, we already have a team of people that are doing this for gyms, doing this for other companies and brands in the space. And so the idea was that if you signed on, we would just handle all of it. As soon as the contract got negotiated, where you had X amount of things you had to post, we would literally say, okay, give us the list, give us the time and when they need to be posted on. And we're going to help assist you to make that as easy as possible. And then even publish that for you and come up with the caption. And all you would have to essentially do is say, yes, I like that caption. No, I would prefer to write my own. Or I don't care. I don't want to deal with it. It just needs to be done on time. And either one of those three options would work, because essentially we would take care of that lift for you. And then my thought was, if you had an athlete like Ariel Lolan, who's really creative and wants to make a lot of media, then she would just upload that to the content sheet, and we'd have one of the editors just make it look that much look that much better, and then take her content and take it from a 7 to a 10 and publish it and post it for her. So she wouldn't even have to think about doing that as well, unless again, she wanted to. Go ahead. You're going to say something there?
Yeah, because I think when you put yourself in the position of the athletes, even like non business people listening to it, imagine yourself as an athlete and a brand comes to you and says, hey, we'll give you $1,000 a month and we need you to make 2 stories and 1 post per month using the fucking hat, right? So immediately you think all you hear is $1,000 a month. You don't hear the responsibility that you have. You just hear the rights that you have, like what you're getting. So then our job is to come in and say, okay, well, look, this is your obligation and you have to fulfill this obligation. So we'll do that with you. So we'll take at least 70% of the lift on that. You just give us the raw stuff if you want. We'll make it, put it up for you. And then what that does is, because what tends to happen is you get to the end of the contract, or you're getting towards the end of the contract, and then you go back to that brand and you say, hey, like, you happy to continue? And they're like, well, you didn't do the fucking thing that you said you were going to do. Like, you didn't do any of the posts. Any of the posts you did do were shit. Like, look, you can see now when you go into Instagram, you can click the reels thing and you can see all the views on all the reels. So if your reel is shit and you're putting up some video from 6 months ago where the hat is in the background and you can barely see it, that company's going to be pissed off because it's got 250 views instead of like 25,000 that they thought they'd get. And it's just gone. Like, the contract is gone. They're not going to renew. They're not interested. Now you've used up that deal, that company. Now you have to go looking for other companies for the same athletes. What you want to do is start a kind of a relationship that either breeds a long-term relationship with the same company, or else has other companies looking and saying, well, I want what that company has, and I'm willing to pay more than that other company is to do it. And that's what our job is, to make sure that the contract, that the company, if they're in a position to, wants to renew the contract. And other companies are also saying, hey, I want a piece of that athlete because they're really good at what they do and they get a lot of engagement and they get a lot of, like, we get ROI, or the other companies get an ROI, and we want that. Because like, I've been there at a company that sponsors the show and I'm like, yeah, cool, like, money, whatever. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't do anything that they told me to do. Because I was so busy concentrating on other stuff. And like, I don't work near as hard as the athletes that are training and all that shit. Like, they've all those other like distractions and responsibilities and stuff. I mean, I have kids, but like, I could do a better job of that myself. And I think it's very easy when it's somebody else to manage that situation and say, okay, I'm making their life easier and I'm going to set up all these things so that it's easy for them to do it and they have minimal responsibility and then maximum return. And then the companies get maximum return too. And then everything just grows, especially if we're bringing in companies from outside the realm that's the norm, which is, I think, what we both really want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to address this. So this is probably half the time I can't tell if she just does this just because she knows how to get under my skin with the way she comments shit sometimes. So they have to make the content and you guys are just posting it for them.
Hey, I'll feel this one because you're being a bit sarky. So okay. Heidi, you're an athlete and you are sponsored by a shoe company, and they have an obligation, or they give you an obligation of making 2 posts a month, right? So instead of you thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this interesting? How am I going to make it appealing? All you do is just get raw footage of you. So some footage of you like running in the shoes, lifting in the shoes, sitting in the shoes, taking them out of the box, putting them in the box, whatever. You send us or upload the raw footage. And then Souza's guys take the raw footage and make a reel out of it, something that looks high production value and looks like you've put a lot of effort into it. We send you back the reel if you want and you post it, or if you trust us and you're happy to just absolve yourself of responsibility, we upload the reel for you, the finished product. And then the company goes, whoa, Heidi's really good. Let's send her another pair of shoes.
Exactly. And on top of that too, we could do creation as far as like how, or I'm sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Pre-production to that. So if you sit down and you're like, I have no idea, like Pedro was saying, like, I don't even know what to do or what shots I need for this, we would still then help you with that. So even more so, we would say, okay, what's your workout look like today? And you're like, okay, today I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. We're like, perfect. Get a shot of this, get a shot of this, have somebody zoom in on the shoes here, do 2 more, and then just send it on over to the content. We'll take care of the rest of it. And so that makes them, as far as making the content and then making it look really good, that makes that super, super easy. And then the second portion of that is like, if you have to actually say anything like a call to action or something like that, you could do it as many times as it takes you into your thing and just send all the raw stuff, and we'll pull the best stuff and make it look like one cohesive thing for you. So if you have trouble saying whatever it is you need to, or need a couple of takes through, we could take that and then mesh it up. But the most important part to this, which is, I guess, where more so my individual part would come into, is we could actually start to look at that content and say, did this convert? Did this capture people's attention? Did they buy the thing afterwards? Did they go to the website? Did they do the call to action? And if they did, or if they didn't, why did that occur? And then so we take in all that data, which is probably ends up being a simple screenshot from the back end of your Instagram, unless you completely just give us the reins, and then you wouldn't even have to do that. But a screenshot of, okay, here's how this reel performed, and this is what it did. And then we could talk with the company to be like, hey, so a couple of our athletes had posted these 3 things. These were some of the ideas that we had. This was the call to action that was used to drive traffic. Like, what did it show up on your guys' end? And so we could constantly take that content and keep tweaking the content until we're like, okay, cool, we got a really good recipe that works well for this athlete and converts as far as driving traffic to a website or people actually purchasing the product. And I played with this over the last like 3 years in terms of what we've done on this podcast, little stuff that I've done outside of this, little ideas here and there that we've trickled throughout the group that people have executed on that have worked well. And so that's kind of the main portion of that. Heidi said, I'm not being snarky. I'm generally asking. My sister needs help making content, not clicking post. Okay. You mentioned something else about your sister. Yes. The answer to that with her would be yes, because she's a high level triathlete and does like the Ironmans. Forgive me if I got that wrong, Heidi, but like, yes, that would be somebody that we could definitely get in the space. And here's why. If I get Heidi's sister, and there's a slew of companies within that triathlon or the endurance community, and we find out, oh, wow, 3 or 4 of these companies are also kind of poking up in the CrossFit space now. And we have that relationship built through Heidi's sister. For some reason, I want to say her name is Jackie. I don't even know if that's true or not. It just came to me. Heidi, is that true? Is your sister's name Jackie? It's gonna be weird if it is. So then we find out like, hey, a couple of the brands that are working with her also want to get in the CrossFit space, and we can make that connection and vice versa, right? So that's also what's going to kind of happen with the synergy of finding people outside of the CrossFit space, as well as reaching out to companies and finding that synergy where we think they can make the most impact. Like I said right off the bat, like Ariel Lolan should definitely have like Dyson. Like the fact that she hasn't gotten a bunch of free Dyson shit and hasn't made a bunch of cool things, like as far as like our products are durable, and she like overhead squats it or whatever, our ideas would be better. But you get
any home appliance or home cleaning or home, like any kind of classic like mom stuff. It's just baffling. But like a classic example of this, and so like Virus, the clothing company, weren't really in CrossFit at all. They were kind of around this like outskirts a little bit. And like a great story, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this because I don't know if it was in confidence or not. But Snorri was in California for something, I can't remember what. And he had emailed Virus about BKG. And BKG had no like clothing sponsor at the time. And then like just pawned them off. They're just like we're not looking to blah, blah, blah. And he was in California for something, and their headquarters is in California. So he just said, fuck it. And he just basically walked up to their offices, like got a meeting and signed BKG. And it was the first CrossFit athlete that they had signed. Like that's the kind of stuff that you want to see happening more and more. People constantly complain about, you know, the sport is dying and there's no money and there's no, like, the consistent thing I heard when speaking to athletes or agents or like partners of athletes is, well, there's just no money, like the brands just aren't investing and it's very hard to get deals and blah. It's like, yeah, okay, so then like don't look at the same brands all the time. Like if Tier are cancelling their athletes in Europe, there's no point going to Tier. If Rad are cancelling their athletes in Europe, there's no point going to Rad, because they're showing you, they're tipping their hand saying, hey, look, we're not willing to invest. We're withdrawing the contracts from the people that we have currently. We're probably doing okay with just North America sales. We basically don't have a European website. So then you think, right, well, they're probably not going to sign another North American athlete then if they already have that money. So let's look at a different company. Let's ignore shoes and apparel for a while. Cool, it's handy for the athlete that they get free shoes all the time with a shoe company, but it's kind of worthless if they don't like the shoes. So then you look at a different type of thing and say, right, what stage of life is the athlete at? Like, are they a student? Could we think of something along those lines? Is there a mass market that they could appeal to that isn't Tier or whatever? Is there are they in their like mid 30s or early 30s? Is there a company we could appeal to there that would also appeal to their main demographic, which is probably in their mid 30s as well? Like if you look at Vellner, I'm guessing most of his followers are over the age of 26, 27 because they've followed him all the way along, or else they found him now when he has a kid and stuff. So you need to find out what the age demographic of the athlete is and then market to them. It's just kind of not good enough to just have athletes and just like throw Tier at them and just hope that there's sales, or just throw money and there's a random grip company and just say, well, fuck it, I hope someone buys them because they do the sport and they like the sport, so maybe they'll buy them. Like there's only so much of that you can have in the space, and I fucking hate using the word space, but there's only so much of that you can have. So then you need to start looking alternative options and say, okay, well, that's been done to death, so we're not going to just keep flogging that same dead horse. Let's try and bring a different pony in. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense here. Oh, damn, I said yeah, no, and Simone always makes fun of me when I say that. I assumed you already approached Mush, and so that's the other thing too. That's the other thing too. Like you have these big social, like what they call like social media blitz, where like all of them posted one thing at the same time. Okay, terrible idea. Terrible idea. I mean, if you want to just do it, like you do that and you make it totally cheese dick, to where you're like, we're just doing this and it's crazy, right? You go all the way, but like there's certain things that we know will resonate in the space and we know will not. And we do media more than anybody else because we are the media people. So that's why it only made sense when we were thinking about this is like, man, the athlete to media to brand connection, like it needs to be really, really strong. And so as the media people, if we just did it on our own, it would really have the strength of being able to post and get a lot of shit out there, but also resonate with people, so it matters. And an intangible to all this is you're like inside the network with us. So like there's no written formal agreement with any of us, but like you know how it goes. It's like you're on here, we're gonna shoot a video about you. Stefan will probably interview. Chase and Bill might want to interview or like talk about it. You'll interview them, right? Like you kind of get pushed into this like ecosystem of people that just really help as far as getting the message out there, right? The spins involved. Now his newsletter could be leveraged if that's part of deals. Like it just, there's a lot of synergy that could happen within the space there, especially if everybody's kind of working towards the same goal. Maybe,
and it's
maybe
not
not
even it's not even good for the it's good for the athlete if the athlete is like part of our cycle or whatever. It's good for the athlete, but it's also good for the brand. If the brand is supporting our athletes that we're working with, we're going to be positive towards them, provided they're not shit. And then that's going to be good for the brand as well. So the brand will get opportunities within that as well, like to be included in Spin's newsletter, to be, you know, to sponsor Kill Taylor or whatever it is. They'll get additional opportunities that you, like you say, they are not tangible. You can't write down and say, well, this will definitely happen, but it just organically comes up that it'll be viewed favorably. And I mean, I don't think there's any audience that are more vehement in their support than of this show and Savan's show. You know, like it's a core group that they will support, and it's like that's, you know, you can't really measure that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just to answer this here, or EC sounds all the athletes posted on the same day. Hope they're not here at the moment. it's not that that's like a terrible strategy. It all depends on how you execute on that strategy, Standy. So like if EC Sounds does it and they have particular people that already create good media in the space, like thinking like Colton, or if you had like Taylor, like Ariel, like these people that organically they just enjoy making content, they do it really well, and people engage with it on their own. Like if you did some sort of media blitz with that and you let them have creative freedom and you were like, make this as cheese dick as possible because we're going to do this big media blitz thing, and all of them did it, that strategy would still be really effective, but just different than just trying to grab all the top people in the space and saying post this at the same time. The reason why is majority of them have already used up their social equity. So like if you're going to do something like that, you can't go with, and I don't mean this anything personal to these athletes, but you can't go with like the Brooke Wells or these other people who just cycle through brands to where like if I see mattress A and then 2 months later I see mattress B, I'm no longer thinking she uses either of those mattresses, and it's just the next contract that got put in front of her. So essentially you become blind and deaf to anything that they're putting out because you know it's just kind of a ad read sale. So it
I think as
also
well,
depends on the people.
when ESC Sounds, when they do post kind of simultaneously, it's usually when there's a Black Friday sale or whatever, and like you kind of remove that from the conversation because that's this time sensitive thing. But like another good example was it 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where Tier first came in and they sponsored loads of athletes who didn't have shoe contracts at the games, which is great. Like short-term contract, here's some money, makes your game a bit easier. But they all posted the exact same video in the exact same format of a secret agent dropping off a suitcase of the shoes. And the first time you see it, you're like, oh yeah, okay. Second time you're like, oh, this the same one as the one I just watched. And then the third time you're like, all right, fuck this, I'm out. Like you just lose interest immediately. So you're all the athletes then beyond whichever the first two that you see have just wasted their time and your time because they're all identical. And I assume what that is the brand saying, hey, it'll take the work out of it for you, just stick to this format, which is fine, but you know, it just gets really old really quickly. And to KF's point there, do the athletes get engagement though? Danny does, but I can't think of many others that get enough to be paid for it. Well, that's our job. So like, no, they don't. But like, write me a list of people who have bought an ice barrel because they saw Brooke Wells getting into an ice barrel. Like that doesn't sell product. Like it's great and she's fulfilling her obligation or whatever, but it's not going to get the type of engagement that the company wants, really. And it's not going to get the type of engagement that we want, because we want the company to look back and say, shit, we made a lot of sales through that. That was a really good idea. Let's keep doing it. And we want the athlete to say, wow, look, they're really happy with me and they want to continue because I did that bare minimum and the guys took over and did the rest. So yeah, I'd say, I mean, Ariel Lowen is an amazing example. She has a heap of reels, over 1-2 million views. Like that's engagement. That's what you're like paying for. That's what the brands are paying for. And then what our job would be is to either have her, hypothetically have her use, we are actually making it sound like she's one of our athletes and she isn't, but like hypothetically have her,
and we haven't had any conversations with her either.
None.
She's just an example.
But like,
hit us up,
to
Ariel.
have her have like a laser focus of that type of content that she does that's engaging, and she finds like the latest trends on TikTok or the latest trends on Reels or whatever and gets ahead of time and uses them before they're a trend, and then have that laser focus go towards one specific brand that are going to say, shit, that was really good, okay, let's give her more or a longer deal or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Savon said something on here too. He said most of these brands know they aren't going to convert, but they can get brand awareness. And that's another thing too. Like we could really pinpoint the strategy here with the brand and with the athlete that they want to use for it. It's like, hey, are we just basically like, if you just want to get your message out there and just shotgun it out, we're not really worried about how many people click the site, but I'm more worried about how many people I ask, do you know about product B after we do this big media blitz? And so if that's the strategy for the brand and they're comfortable with that, and that's what we know going into, then we develop the strategy that way. If they're like, no, I really want to convert and sell this particular product within this time, then the strategy changes. The athletes we might even use will change as the roster grows. And then that way we could help them deliver on that. The big thing that I've noticed, and I was just going to actually go into like how to convert and what we've done on this show and things that have worked really well with brands and stuff that I've done. But actually, I'm not going to go into that because that's the proprietary blend here at.
I think an interesting thing to talk about as well is that, or even just to mention, is that I think both of us come at this from a different side, like we had a conversation with Rios and someone else recently, and it became very apparent that both of us look at it from a different kind of lens. Where you were talking about that stuff, you were talking about converting to sales, like we can keep an eye on the numbers, blah blah. And I was kind of, my main thing is like almost like osmosis, where it's like you just want the brand to be in like embedded in everything, that everywhere anybody looks they see it, and then that's the first brand they think of when they want to buy grips or a belt or a hat or shoes or a fucking electric whisk or whatever it is. You want just consistent brand awareness and positive association where people think, oh, that brand sponsored behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes. I'm going to support that brand. Like, oh, that brand sponsors that athlete. I love that athlete. I'm going to sign up to GoWad over pliability. Or that shoe sponsors that competition. I'm going to buy those shoes because I like that competition. I watch it every year. So I'm going to pick them over like GoRuck or whatever.
Exactly. And another thing that could just completely go away for forever is making an announcement that you have a big announcement coming. Like Criminy. What? Big news coming soon. Like, first off,
stay tuned.
Dude, like nobody cares. Number one. Sorry. They just don't. And even if they do, they don't. And we don't need an announcement for your announcement. Just make the announcement. That first one's free. What is on? If you sponsor anybody that's a noble athlete, you know you're getting a sellout that can't be trusted. I don't make the rules. It's just the facts.
Go to Jake Felton's comment, the frog grips. So the issue with frog grips. So the frog grips thing is wild to me. Accused of causing injury now all over the place, all while the rubbers are being banned. Rubbers. So the issue with frog grips, the people that injured themselves, what they actually did was, and there was a leaflet with the grips when you bought them, because I've spoken to the owners about this. So you know when you throw the grip over the top of the bar, and then you do your pull-ups or whatever, and then you drop down. What they were doing was they were like looping the grip back under their hand, like under the grip, if you know what I mean. They were doing a full 360 around the bar, doing their muscle ups and then letting go, expecting to just fall off, but then the grips would catch it and they wouldn't release. And there was actually a leaflet with the grip saying, don't do this. You just throw it over the top. You don't wrap it all the way around. So yeah, they were accused incorrectly of causing injury. Now they're all over the place. The reason they're all over the place is because they want to promote and support as many athletes as they possibly can, and like events and stuff. And then the rubbers are banned, yeah, but there are other ones that aren't banned. So like that was CrossFit's decision to ban the grips. Not like Frog Grips didn't make grips saying, well, these are going to be banned, but fuck it, let's sell them anyway. They made grips. CrossFit said, no, they're too good, so you can't use them. So then they have alternative grips, which is fine. But I think it's inaccurate to say that they were accused correctly of causing injury. Like the athletes that were using them were dumb. They didn't use them properly. So that's like me having a barbell, smack myself on the head with it and being like, fuck Rogue, this is dangerous.
Exactly.
Bit hyperbolic,
and you already made me think of like just a whole entire piece of content that we could do for Frog Grips, which is like you have this kind of like person who's getting the grips and is like picks up the pamphlet and it says like important, please read, and they're like, screw this, I'm too fit to read anything,
and then they're in an ER with like their arm in a sling.
That's right. And then someone's like, hey, did you read this that came with the grips? And it's like, oh, and then the thing goes away, right? Dense updates. The market is so oversaturated with brands and athlete influencers. No, you're just tired of the content they create. There's no such thing as oversaturation, but there is something as palate fatigue. So we all will sit around and watch CrossFit and all this other stuff till the cows come home. But at the same time, if it's not new, if it's not exciting, if it's not fresh and it's not moving forward, then you're immediately going to call it saturation and be done with it because it's just fatigue. You're just sick of seeing the same stuff. Paper Street Coffee. I need to get you a new mug, Souza. Literally,
it's so faded.
Dude, this is the first one Gabe sent me in, I don't know how many years ago he sent it to me. 3 years ago, 4 years ago at this point. So I still got it. I still rock it on most shows, but I would love a new one. Thank you. Please no, whatever, the ones that keep your shit so hot you can't drink it for forever. Okay, so I want to transition real quick. So I guess we could cross that one off onto
just on dense updates comment before you go on. About the like oversaturation or the, you know, like you said, sometimes you just need something different. I think like, so I made an ad for Sentinel, and if an outside person came and looked at that ad that plays at the start of the show, they'd just think, oh, that's like kind of a classic CrossFit type. You know, there's a bit of a beat underneath it. There's like, you know, it's kind of grainy footage, like whatever. But anybody who's within the space would know that I'm parodying a HWPO advert. And that has multiple layers to that joke, because one, it's Taylor. And that's just funny that he's parodying a HWPO ad.
Yep.
But like, that's the type of content. I'm not saying that's amazing content, but it's different enough that a core group of people who Taylor would already be semi-important to, or might be on the fence, would then see that ad, think it's funny, and sign up. People who don't know it might just see that ad, think it's good, and sign up. And that's what you want to do, is have something that's either parodying what's already out there and a bit tongue-in-cheek and, you know, kind of funny or different, or have something that's so far left of field that it's completely different than the norm of like someone opening a microwave saying, I just really love taking care of my food and piercing the film and just cooking it in a microwave, or someone hopping in and out of an ice bath, or putting up a story of just an ice bath in a picture. You want like Colton the other day out in like far sub-zero temperatures, smashing the ice and hopping into his ice bath, which is just, like, surely he could just stand outside, same purpose. But that's eye-catching, being like, shit, look how thick that ice is, and then he jumps into it, and then you think he's a G, and like, that's what you want.
Right, exactly. And I already see the next one with him sitting in the ice bath with a really tight shot as he's just petting a wiener dog, looking super stoic and like having a conversation. And as it zooms out, you realize it's an ad for the ice bath. And then it like punches back in super quick and have him just be like, but this isn't for everybody because most people are pussies. And then it like bleeps that portion of it, right? And now you have this like compelling, funny thing that people will share or they'll engage with and everything else.
And if we can CGI a wetsuit onto the wiener, it's even better. Like
that
some
would
kind
be
of thermal.
amazing. See, guys, we're just full of the ideas here. It's insane. So as we move on to like, okay, so that's what's going to make us different from the media standpoint. Oh, shit. Colton Burns. My wieners don't.
That's
like
why they have
water.
the wetsuit. That's why you put the thermals on them.
Amazing. Okay, I don't even know what that has nothing to do with us. So that's the media aspect of it, which is important because that's going to be the forward facing stuff, right? So it's like, who are the brands, who are we reaching out to, how are we making really good media that helps those brands accomplish what they want to, with also having the least amount of lift and the least amount of burden on the athletes, so much as how they choose, right? And they still have complete freedom and autonomy over their media, and they still have the last check mark of, this is authentic to me and I'm comfortable with this post before it goes out. And there's different variations of that. You could do a lot of it, or you could say, here's my Instagram handle, don't bug me. And we would do it all for you. We'd even make graphics and stuff like that we do for the gyms and the brands that Media Launch works with.
We just post Floyd 19 on repeat, just every day.
That'll kill it.
Until you ask for your passwords back.
Yeah, that's
alternate between Floyd 19 and I'm out. Floyd 19, I'm out. Just day after day, just to appeal to everyone.
There's no contracts, but we will blackmail you and steal your Instagram handles. And so that's the forward facing stuff. Behind the scenes thing is really where I think, like, personally, I like to kind of dig in on, which is like, if I bring an athlete in with us and they're like, hey, I'm into this sounds exciting. The first thing we're going to do is like start to talk about, okay, what are the long-term goals here? Not just, oh, I want to win the CrossFit Games. Okay, awesome. What happens afterwards? Because if you don't really have that plan forward of like, hey, I'm just going to compete through these years and I want nothing to do with this, or like, hey, I'm going to compete, but I'm really into coaching and one day I want to own my gym, or I want to do whatever. So you're going to stay in the space versus be outside of it. That's important to know right off the get-go, because that could help us kind of strategize towards your whole entire long-term goal, not just executing on the contract that's in front of us for the short-term things that we need to accomplish, but on top of that, thinking, okay, how does this relate also to the bigger picture? Which is really important in terms of like deciding the brands that you're going to work with, deciding the contracts, deciding where you're going to spend your social equity. And I guarantee you, just from the fruit of the labor, the things we see happen, there's not very many conversations between athletes and agents or athletes and managers on social equity. And is this worth you doing XYZ for this contract? Can we find this money somewhere else? Is this going to be harmful to your image or your ability to have contracts into the future? And like really sitting down and thinking about that. So before I go into the finance portion of it, anything to add there?
No, I think, yeah, it just comes back to the, oh, I didn't know. Yeah, that's the opposite. I think it goes back to the short-sightedness, either like on purpose or subconsciously. Just okay, what can we do this week, this month, this season? And not thinking about 10 years' time when the athlete is retired and has a family and wants to have set things up so that all the work they put in for 10 years is paying off. All that hard work is paying off bit by bit, rather than suddenly scrambling and being like, shit, what am I going to do now? I've retired. What do I do now? And then the manager or athlete is just like, I don't know, I'm on to the next athlete. Like, you go do whatever. Like, we want to put a system in place that keeps them going as long as they want to keep going, basically.
Exactly. And then deciding, like, that's an important thing, because unless we really know that path and we're understanding it, and you're continuously like giving context and updating us on your decisions and how you feel about everything and how we're moving forward, it really allows us to have streamlined communication between us, the athlete, and our path forward, which is really important to kind of just be on the same page. The other portion of that is the financial portion. I don't know much about this.
Bring up Mundweiler's comment every weekend.
Pedro
more
got
money
me
than any other agents I had.
No shit, is that true?
That's Mundweiler. I don't actually believe it is true, but I did get him money.
Okay, well, there you go. See, well, proof is already in the pudding. Sebon had something about my cat could kick Colton Merton's dog's ass.
Molten curtains.
Curtains. That's my dyslexia coming in. That's pretty funny. That's amazing. So also to the financial portion of it. So when we sit down and we talk about, not getting too overly involved in any of your stuff, but it's important to know, oh, he confirmed it. It is true. Damn.
Jeez, I wish I was there for your Nike deal if that's true.
And not getting too far down into the personal side of the finance stuff, but it's super important to understand, like, okay, if we get X amount of money and you're making other income from different things in here, what is your burn rate on how much it costs you to just be you? Like, how much do you spend a month on all your stuff, your groceries, everything else, right? And you could kind of ballpark figure that, and you could choose to share it or you could not. You could just take the information and apply it in your own way. And then once we're like, okay, so if this is how much it costs for you to kind of live, let's determine what do we need to do to save. Let's determine what do we need to do as far as reach for more money to make this a full-time job or keep it a full-time job. How are you investing some of that money into other opportunities or into just general investments, maybe a house, maybe whatever, an index fund, whatever the case may be, but also providing some sort of information as far as like, here's your contract. Yes, we got it. Understand $50,000 might seem like a lot, but this contract in 12 months will be gone. There's no guarantee on it coming back. And we need to really be careful and strategize like how much more money we need to bring in through this time period and what we're going to do in terms of allocation of that 50,000, because now you're going to, quit the job as the server at the restaurant and go full-time into working out. So different conversations like that need to be had. And then also too, there just needs to be direction for more information. Like I said, I'm not your personal financial advisor or anything by any means, but I just think the conversation definitely needs to be had, and then resources need to be put in place. So again, do they have a good tax agent? Do they have somebody that's helping with that? Do we give them the resources for it? Do they really want to nerd out on the financial stuff and we're supplying them with books like I did with James Sprague? Gave him the Money Makeover. People hate that in the comments, but I don't care. And so different things like that, those conversations need to have. Okay, let's see. Patrick Clark, he's going to prove us wrong and tell us that it's already happening. Agents are doing just that. Just because you don't see it or hear about it doesn't mean it isn't happening. Look up Beck Bod, who handles most of the top athletes' finances for the future.
That's surely bold. That has to be bold. It's a magic key. We're not saying that it's not happening, Patrick. I'm sure you're a great agent. I'm sure a lot of the agents are fine. But this is just this is the need from speaking to athletes. These are the shortcomings of some of the agents that they've worked with over the years. And these are the things that we think are kind of like, even it comes down to, say, if you're an athlete and you're doing the World Fitness Project, that's fine on paper if you're doing the qualifiers, right? It's fine. Like Colton, perfect example. He's doing the qualifiers for World Fitness Project. He wants to prove himself. He wants to earn his pro card next year. Great. But now he's going to Europe. How the fuck is he going to pay for that? He's going to 2 different states that he's not from in America. How's he going to pay for that? He's going to have loss of earnings at home because he's going doing that and he has a job. So right, we have to cover that too. And then that's outside of just he wants to buy, a new assault bike. He wants to, hang another set of rings. He wants to put up an outdoor rig so that he can prepare for NorCal, whatever it is. They're the things that you sit down and talk about and say, right, the next couple of years, what are you looking to do? Where are you looking to compete? Right, let's have a chat with your coach, come back, let's come up with a list of options, how we can afford that, how we can make it work. Can we afford it? If we can't, can we go and get like a travel partner and then maybe work out something like that you can, subsidize some of the travel costs. If you're not one of those big athletes who's getting a contract and is being paid to go to Copenhagen, whatever, 2 days before Christmas, can we make it so that you're able to afford to go and you can even visit the Christmas markets after and buy yourself a hot chocolate? Like we can have this little extra expenditure. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that you need to sit down and talk to the athlete about, we believe. And maybe it is happening. Maybe some are doing it, maybe not all. Maybe none are doing it. We don't know, because all we're going off is what the athletes have said. This is a common stress point for me. This is a point of frustration for me. This is something that I think is lacking. And then we've basically compiled all those together and come up with what we think is a good option for athletes who have those frustrations. Some don't. Like some don't care. Yeah. Some have made it and they're at the pinnacle. And like, I don't believe for a second that we're going to get a call off someone like Brooke Wells, who just does not need this. Like flat out doesn't need it. We could definitely improve things for her, but she just doesn't need it. But like what we're aiming for is the athletes that are either coming up and need help or are there or thereabouts and haven't had the help that they believe they deserve, or feel like maybe they have more to offer and it just hasn't like been able to come out yet. They haven't been able to showcase it, or they haven't had the opportunities that they think they deserve, or they've been dropped by companies for not fulfilling their obligations and they're not sure how to do it. That they're the people that we're aiming for.
Exactly. And one other thing too, as far as Munweiler. Munweiler. Was that right? Munweiler. Yeah. Most agents just make money off athletes. Very little agents actually bring actual money to the athlete. And yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. Like going out and hunting, right? Like, how do you find different brands or companies outside of the space? And one of the cool, unique things that I have at Media Launch is like, we work with a lot of companies that most of you guys have never heard of. Did I show you the commercial that I was in for Clear Now? We'll do it off screen. One of our people didn't show up for a commercial and I had to stand in. It's ridiculous. But this was a couple years ago. But or a year ago. Anyways, there's certain companies that like we already work with. Like, have any of you guys seen the fucking race car company where I got TDC's logo on the hood of the race car? Like literally Central Coast Racing. And we got his logo on the hood of a race car. So yeah, there's different things like that we can help with, because we already have relationships with a lot of these brands because we're helping them with their media marketing. So we're not kind of just sitting here like, okay, like, waiting for a cold calling. We're still going to do that. We're still going to cold call, reach out to brands all the time, but we also have a lot of energy coming in towards us just because of the other companies that are involved with helping out other brands and stuff. So we're kind of just pulling a big lasso around this whole thing and tightening it up. And it was funny because I really wanted to do this, but there is no way I would be like so overextended if I had to like talk with all the athletes and handle a lot of the day-to-day and then work with a lot of the competition things. And right when you and I had the conversation and I was like, oh, wait a minute, you're the perfect partner for it because you're already doing all of that stuff and I could bring the whole media piece and together our powers combined. Sevon, I was a 7-figure brother, lost my job. Souza's my angel. Oh, that's really nice. I'm back in the game. I ball so hard, motherfuckers want to find me, but they can't find you. Souza has access to all my bank accounts and everything I do except my wife. That's funny. That's true. And it's been 3 years of ascension. Yeah, we've been crushing it. It's been awesome. One of the best business partners I've ever had. Okay, where do we get sent after this podcast?
Yeah, I'm not doing the show, so it won't be me.
Oh, okay, you're not. I was gonna say, do I need to send you? Are you late.
Oh, tell them to go and watch the Lucy McGonigal documentary I did. They can go watch that instead. And they can comment Souza sent me if they want.
Perfect. Oh, Savage Sailor's Agent Inc. I like it, YouTube user. I like it.
SSAI. That's a saving scheme in Ireland, the SSAI. I don't know what it stands for, but I know it's like a government investment scheme where you put money in and they match something, a certain amount or something, I think. SSAI. Anyway.
Damn.
I'm not calling it that.
Sean, was it a nude commercial? See, these are the type of ideas that we're talking about. This will convert. I did a show when I did the show in Arizona. Sean made a comment about Dana White, and it was one of those ones where I was kind of like, I read it, and then I stopped, and it was like everything he said kind of sucked in. I was like, holy shit, he's right. Dana White is pulling all the strings to all the shit behind the scenes. And then he kind of spun me off into this rabbit hole of looking up how much leverage Dana White has over all this media and everything that's going on in our political sphere these days, which is nuts. Shout out Sean for that one. So I think we touched base on everything as far as, oh, this is amazing. A Will Brandstetter comment. These people, these comments don't just show up. Okay.
I barely get a text off Will nowadays.
A Will Brandstetter comment is amazing. Our work here is completely done. He's absolutely crushed it. CrossFit Games plus the Savon podcast collaboration on Insta just now. Oh. Wait, really? Oh shit! Awesome.
I wonder is it just a clip of Taylor saying "butt fuck" over and over? And they just have so much trust now. They're just like, yeah, accept. They didn't even look at
fine. Another gaping joke. We're used to it by now. We've all been desensitized.
The president of the CAC has declared butt fuck.
Did you watch the show last night when
No, I haven't lined up to watch.
Oh, it's great. You should check it out. I like Taylor in this new role a lot, but it was just funny because he's like, yeah, I talked to Dave afterwards, and he's like, hey, tone down the butt talk, and Sevon laughs, and he's like, did Dave really say tone down the butt talk? And Taylor's like, no. It's just actually funny that that line would come up in a conversation between somebody like Dave Cascio and Taylor Self, and we would actually believe that was the full conversation.
That's plausible.
Oh shit. Pull it up. What are we pulling up?
Oh, the post, I think they mean. Greg asked how many athletes is ideal goal for 2025. I don't care, really. It doesn't matter.
I was gonna say that's actually one of our strongest leverage points, I feel like. Where was that comment? I didn't even see. Was it further up? Oh yeah, Greg.
It's above Will. Yeah.
How many athletes is ideal goal for 2025? So here's the best part about this is that's not our full-time gig, meaning we don't, if some athletes don't sign, if they do sign, if we get all of them, if we get none of them, monetarily, it doesn't change for us at all, like zero. So therefore, we have a lot of leverage in that sense. Is we're not desperate for it. We're going to be picky on who we choose. It's not just going to be whatever. We have to know that the athletes coming in is a good fit with us, with the brands, and also too that we know we could add value to that athlete. We're not just going to take you on in hopes of adding to the percentage of takeaway or whatever we construct as the deal is. And so that's kind of one of the cool things about that is we don't have to stress that at all.
Also, it's no. Maybe I do intend disrespect. I don't know. But a lot of agents take 20% of the deals or whatever. And if you look at what we laid out in this show as what we would give to the athlete, I think it should show that 20% is quite steep. If you're not getting that stuff, you should be thinking, geez, 20% that's pretty hefty. That's a fifth of my deal. And they're not doing I don't believe anyway, maybe some of them are, but they're not doing the Google sheet with the times and the dates the stuff needs to be posted, the type of content that needs to be posted. They're not helping you create the ideas and the end product for the content. They're not looking after that stuff for you. I think 20% is pretty crazy. Someone asked me at the weekend, and they said, what percentage would you take? 20%? And I said, well, I was kind of thinking more 10. And then they said, well, why don't you just meet in the middle and go 15 then? And I was like, yeah, I'd probably still be more comfortable with 10 or 12 rather than just 20%. Just seems insane that it's a fifth of the deal. just seems insane to me for the amount of work that's being done. I don't know. It just seems a bit mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I also think too, like that percentage will climb and fall versus the resources that are used to support the infrastructure that's needed to make you successful, right? So if you're somebody who doesn't have a ton of the deals, that may be a newer athlete, the demand as far as your posts might be a lot less, then it's going to be a lesser percentage. You'll sit somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or so, right? But if you're somebody who has a lot of deals, there's a really high demand, maybe we're completely controlling your Instagram to post all the deliverables that are necessary for the brands. Maybe there's 3 or 4 3 or 4 posts that are needed a month, plus stories and other stuff, and we fulfill all that to you, then maybe it's going to be closer to like 15 to 18%, right? We'll creep up towards the 20%. Half of this stuff we're kind of just making up right now, because until we get some tangible numbers and start to like play with some of the deals and different things in front of us, we could allocate as necessary. But that's one of the strengths as far as like we don't need the money. And I don't mean to say that cockle, like we're like, oh, I'm so rich, we don't need your money. Like that's not the case. It's just not our first goal. It's number one, is this the right fit for you? Number 2, does it plug into your long-term goals? Number 3, do we see a future with it? Number 4, can we deliver exceptionally on what we're promising? And then number 5, how much are we going to get paid for it? And so that's kind of the like triage of the way you look at everything before you jump into a contract or before we sign the thing. And if those all don't fit and we can't kind of make it work, then we'll pass the deal along. We're not desperate to get paid for it, and we don't want to put you in a position that's going to make it to where you compromise any of your social equity or integrity off the deal for a few bucks. I think we crushed it.
Yeah, now we just need an athlete.
So if you're an athlete, KS said something way up at the top. I don't know if I could find it, but okay, CrossFit or influencer agency, they don't have to be athletes. There's truth to that. If you're somebody who, like, you could be an Andrew Hiller, and he's like, I just want to create YouTube videos.
I do not like the word influencer though, but yeah.
I don't like the word influencer either. But if you're a media personality and you're like, I could get more brands, I just don't have the time to deal with any of the shit and the contracts and the posting and all that type of stuff, then you're a fit for us. Heidi had mentioned something about her sister. That might work. She disappeared when I guessed her sister's name, so we'll never know.
Spin, if you're actually serious, you should have way more. You should have a huge stream of income, man. If your stats that you've told us are true, you should have an insane stream of income for what you do. Like genuinely, if you want help, yeah, like genuinely, if you want help, it should like, it's not going to match. Like I get the impression you're pretty rich, so it's not going to match what you actually earn. But like, you could do pretty well off your stats, considering the alternative options that are out there, the reach you have compared to them. Like you should be doing, I believe, a lot better than you're doing for the work that you do. But yeah, what about fitness athlete or fitness agent company? And then it's FAC.
FAC. I like it. The fitness agent company. Agency.
No, I'm not actually suggesting that. That's a genuine
LLC. Name. I like it. I don't like you said, for me, it's more or less like the name will kind of come. I like the fitness athlete agency council. FAC. Heidi's back. Okay, great. I was guessing if your sister's name was Jackie or not. I can't remember if that was true or where that came from, but that's what I think. Patrick Clark, so you are getting John Young and Ovaltine deal. See, this is the type of things we're talking about. This is it. This is the energy we need. An Ovaltine deal for John Young. Oh, everyone wants the FAC. Dang, look at that. It's already fitting in. Oh shit, I was
her name
right.
actually Jackie?
Yep.
That's crazy.
I know. I don't like. She was posting a bunch of stuff like with one of her races or something like a couple months back or whatever. So I don't know why that just popped in my head, which is crazy. Fitness agency collective.
FAC.
The FAC. All right. So if you guys and Brian, if you're serious, yeah, we would definitely help you out. We'll get you all set up. You could be somebody who's going to test flow kind of our systems.
Yeah, you can be our guinea pig, and we'll do it for nothing.
Surely you need to drop some vowels to be on trend.
True.
Look at these facts. That's hilarious. All right, if you're a brand in the space, if you're an athlete in the space, if this interested you at all, reach out. Hit either of us up on whatever DM.
Or if you
something,
know an athlete or a brand who's pissed off with the service that they're getting, send them this and see if they're interested.
And then if you get 3 more friends to sign up, you make money every month off their signups. And if they get 5 more
be an
friends,
investor in fact.
Like a month in, people are like, I think this is a pyramid scheme. All this Herbalife product showed up in my garage and they charged me for it. I don't get it. All right, guys. Pedro, thank you. Thanks for coming on, chatting
No
about this.
problem.
I'm excited about this. I'm curious to see where this goes over like the next year or two. This will be exciting. I also think too that something like this could start to bring more synergy to the space, more brands to the outside, and who knows, maybe it'll be our contribution in terms of continuing to bring energy into the CrossFit world, continue to bring energy into the CrossFit Games, continue to bring energy to athletes, continue to bring energy to coaches and affiliate owners alike. Because if all of us focus on contribution over extraction into the ecosystem that we all live, love, and play in all the time, it might continue to grow, because it seems like it's been stopping for a little bit. So
also, if you think about the amount of shit we got done when this wasn't anything, imagine what we get done now when we're actually doing it properly.
I know, right? Like really leaning into it. Shout out to Mr. Rios, who will be one of our first people going. All righty, guys. Thank you very much. I would send you to a different show, but there are none today because I stole Pedro. So
go and watch the Lucy McGonigal documentary. Also, Rodrigo asked,
yes.
do you have any other videos of athletes in the making? You and Hitter are providing the best CrossFit content. That's I would rather not be compared to him, please. That's going to be pretty harsh in reality. Looks old school and so genuine. Yes, as in it's not very good. Great work. Lucy was great. Yeah, Lucy is great. I'm going over to Harry Lightfoot at some point in the next like month and a half or so, once my wife forgives me for going to Miami. And I followed Jason Hopper around Saturday and Sunday at Wadapalooza, and I followed Ricky and a new UK guy, Tom Kingdon, around Thursday and Friday. So I'll have 2 videos from that, and then Harry Lightfoot at some point in the next couple of months as well.
Awesome. And I just put the link to the Lucy 24 hours with proven tier Wadapalooza qualifier winner, Lucy McGonigal.
No, you're thinking of Lucy Campbell. Lucy McGonigal finished like 13th, maybe.
But I just read
Lucy
your title.
Campbell
Did I miss a word?
There is a Lucy Campbell video as well.
Yeah.
So Lucy Campbell, there is a Lucy Campbell video there as well, but Lucy McGonigal is the new, like she's like a teenage games champion, and she's with Proven, and
she was a qualifier winner. Tier Wadapalooza qualifier winner. That
was me being clever, putting 2025 Tier Wadapalooza in the title of the video, thinking people will search for the Be Friendly live stream and accidentally click Lucy McGonigal and watch at least 3 minutes of it before they realize.
And so far it's doing well. So go check it out. We did get a collab on the Sevon podcast as well with the CrossFit Games. Check that out. There's us there.
Nailed it in the sense
it's a whole swipe over
you
thing.
Can do the open. That's that. Yes, there's open games and then some stuff in the middle.
The Tide.
And traditionally that's been kind of reserved for people that have.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Be good to each other out there, because at the end of the day,
10% for the quarterfinals in years past, 25% for last year.
I can still hear Boz.
Really, we looked at that and we said, hey man, it looks like there's a lot of people that want to compete.
I can still hear Boz.
You know, in my opinion, I think the real utility
I'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Competition